Looking over 2021 for TV and film, we had some delays with Batman and Avatar 2, but we also had our fair share of successes. Arcane, Dune, No Way Home, and No Time to Die. All of these were predicted to be successful and all of them delivered. Maybe Arcane didn't receive the hype that it ultimately delivered on, but Dune, No Time to Die, and No Way Home had been movies that had been gathering a following for years before they finally debuted in theaters. However, the obvious winner of 2021 was Squid Game, and against all odds it was able to make a name for itself without an initial massive marketing squad, without hype being generated before its release, and most impressively, it was able to make itself known and loved in a country that usually glosses over foreign cinema without giving it any of its much needed respect. But how did Squid Game hit it out of the park with American audiences? Squid Game was able to do what any show dreams of, and it was able to continue its success in countries that don't even speak Korean. Squid Game, with a relatively light amount of advertising, was able to cement its spot as Netflix's #1 show of all time, with 1.65 billion hours streamed within its first 4 weeks. The series has had 7 times the amount of streams than the most popular episode of Game of Thrones. Nearly 1 out of 4 Americans has seen it, and it was able to do all of this while being a foreign show to many. This is not even mentioning the fact that the show's creator had to wait 10 years before his idea came to something tangible. All of these accolades and the struggles that were endured to make sure the show came to existence are impressive and inspiring. But what made Squid Game stand out on a global scale? Undeniably, Squid Game had perfect timing. It came out in a time where anime has made subtitles less of a turnoff for the general public. Netflix has allowed for the ability to watch shows whenever and wherever you want, and films like Parasite have opened up the US to the world of foreign cinema. Anime specifically has been on the rise in the US. Revenue from the industry is predicted to only increase, and this is in large part due to streaming services like Netflix, which allow for audiences to watch shows whenever they want without having to catch a specific airtime. Having a specific time in which a show airs is obviously not as convenient as having a streaming platform. But for foreign shows it works against them even harder because audiences are usually hesitant to watch shows with subtitles. And before I go any further, let me make it clear that when I say audiences, I'm talking about the average American consumer. I understand that there are people, myself included, who don't mind subtitles, but we make up a minority in this country. Most people don't like subtitles, and watching a foreign movie or show for them just turns into a chore. Therefore, convincing these people to watch a foreign show at a specific time on a TV channel is impossible. But with platforms like Netflix, people can watch shows whenever they want to, and when someone recommends you a show, you have a direct access to its catalog without having to scavenge the episodes online like you would have had to a few years ago when channels like AMC were in their heyday. On top of this, nearly 2 out of every 3 adults in the United States have a current Netflix subscription, which means that having access to shows like Squid Game is significantly more common than in the days of cable television. Squid Game also benefits from social media being able to further its popularity. A large portion of Squid Game's audience said that it first heard of the show from social media, and the largest platform was TikTok. Word of mouth is critical for having a popular product, movie, or show, but Squid Game had people talking about it, and also had those people broadcasting their thoughts on a social media for others to see. Additionally, Squid Game coming out during the pandemic and the school year helped it. I understand that we are not in the height of the pandemic anymore like we were in 2020, but still, many people are staying at home, having virtual school or working from home, and with school, people have free time, but it becomes a lot more segmented. So hanging out with friends becomes more difficult, and activities that can be done on our own time, like watching TV, become easier. This is purely anecdotal, but I watch a lot more shows and movies over the school year than I do in the summer, because my free time comes in batches. So with 3 hours, I feel like I might just watch a show rather than plan a day out with my friends, since that takes more time. I'm in college, and finding time to hang out with people takes a lot more planning now, especially with limited free time. But I can watch a movie or show whenever my schedule allows for it. Had Squid Game been released 10 years ago or even in the mid-2000s, then it definitely would not be as successful as it is now. The convenience of Netflix and the accolades of anime and movies like Parasite, which have proven to Western audiences that Eastern television is worth watching, are undoubtedly some of the biggest contributors in setting the right environment for a show like Squid Game to thrive in. Battle Royales may not be anything new, but the way in which Squid Game tackles it is definitely something that has originality. The show has a plot that makes sense, and while the concept is based on something that's far-fetched, the show does a great job of giving justifications as for why it is taking place, and the show justifies that it is not something that is purely based on fantasy. The characters feel real, the show does a great job of rewarding those viewers who truly pay attention, as the show has loads of foreshadowing throughout. Squid Game also has its own identity, and while watching it I definitely noticed that it had its own tone. There is just the right amount of quirkiness in the show, with the games resembling children's games and the guards having goofy outfits that may seem out of place in any other battle royale but fit perfectly into this one. The show also implements pieces of art which gives it more substance and beauty while also having familiarity. The show is just amazing. It does a great job of balancing multiple storylines, and it has a story which has meaning. The characters feel real and their motivations make sense. Not everything is done for the sheer sake of entertainment. Squid Game has something to say with the outcomes of its storylines, and it does a great job of maintaining the balance between meaning and entertainment. While there are some nitpicks here and there are a few things that I may have done differently, I really can't complain about the show. It's amazing and nearly perfect. The main reason behind Squid Game's success is nothing other than the show's own merit. Squid Game honestly deserves all the love that it gets, and there was not a single moment of this show where I was truly bored. Some storylines could have been hashed out a bit more, but we have a season 2 to look forward to that, which could help explain more of the mysteries from season 1. I may make a more in-depth video covering my personal nitpicks and thoughts on season 2 later, but for this video I'll keep it brief. Just know that I overall love Squid Game. Ultimately, Squid Game thrived from the environment that it had, and there really was a perfect storm which had made for the perfect timing for the show's debut. Obviously, the show did a lot of things right, since we have plenty of other foreign shows that come out with the same amount or even more advertising than Squid Game, which do not even come close to its success. By now, I'm sure all of you have heard that Squid Game took a long time to make, specifically around 10 years. The director, who is also the writer, was in tough places with debt, and this really helped inspire the show. The script was actually completed in 2009, but many studios actually nudged away from the idea of Squid Game because of the fact that it had a bizarre concept. But Netflix finally agreed to undertake the project after a lengthy uphill battle that the director had to go through in order to find a studio that would produce his show. However, with the environment that was created by the time Squid Game released, which perfectly set the stage for a show like it to be successful, maybe Squid Game's release after a 10-year struggle was ultimately for its own good.